Harshala, good morning. Great to have you on the show. Given the economy is now opening up and activity levels are picking up, how's the demand pickup been across the MSME sector? And would you say that the impact of COVID has normalized to a large extent, or at least some extent?
I'm glad to be on this show. So speaking about what's been the uptake and what's been the credit infusion for MSMEs, we of course did see that credit infusion to MSMEs declined sharply post the lockdowns. But the ECLGS schemes which got implemented brought about the much needed boost and significantly helped in reviving credit infusion to this sector post its announcement in May 2020. So what we have really seen is that if I have to speak about the geography, we saw that were impacted the highest. It could be linked to the lockdowns and the unlocks that got announced in various states and various parts of the country. But we have seen that disbursement levels have been picking up, especially in the urban, the semi-rural and the semi-urban areas, and now have gone back to where it was in the pre-COVID levels. And of course, the government schemes also did help.
Sure. Harshala, share with us what are the trends across disbursements, and if you could just break it up geographically as well.
Absolutely. I mean, if I have to specifically speak about disbursements in different states, we did see that states like Maharashtra, areas like Delhi, we did see that they had the lowest rise when we compared it to the February 2020 levels. And but if I have to sharply call out some states, Bihar, Punjab, Kerala, Jharkhand, saw an increase of almost fourfold when we compared that to the February 2020 volumes. And again, as I said earlier, we could really link it to the unlocks that got announced and the revivals which happened in those particular states.
Okay. So how far are we then from pre-COVID levels in terms of volume and value?
So from a pre-COVID level, we are seeing a lot of areas where they are back to the February 2020 levels. Most of them have gone back to those levels. And but I mean, if you look at it from an overall perspective, we even pre-COVID, there was a slowdown which was being witnessed. So if we compare it to maybe last year, there is maybe a gap, but I think from a level perspective, it is back to the February 2020 levels. Specifically on the MSME side.
Sure, exactly. So in terms of flow towards MSMEs as well, how beneficial has the ECLGS turned out for the sector? Do you think these steps have helped, that there was a need for it?
Oh, absolutely. So I think, post the ECLGS, the Atmanirbhar schemes that were launched by the government of India, it really has helped in terms of boosting the resurgence in the MSME sector. And, the interventions like the equity infusion to the MSMEs via the fund of funds, or whether it is the civil subordinate debt schemes which got launched, has really helped in terms of, where the requirement of funds was there. And I think from a bank's perspective also, they have done a good job in terms of ensuring that disbursements do happen to this sector, and public sector banks really were at the forefront in terms of the disbursements. And we've also seen that the private sector banks and NBFCs also slowly picking up from a credit disbursement perspective.
Morning, Harshala. Nikunj Dalmia also joining in. We just heard Mr. Aditya Puri, and he shared a very interesting number with us, which is that for HDFC Bank, the loan recovery is at 96 to 97%. It was at 98, 99% pre-COVID, is almost there. Aren't you surprised with the fact that the moratorium has come and gone and it has not impacted? Or do you think what has happened with HDFC Bank is only applied to HDFC Bank? For other banks, it could be a completely different story?
Yes, so from an NPS perspective, I think each bank, each sector would be different. But if I have to specifically speak about the commercial or the MSME sector, while there is a slight increase in the overall NPAs, it's not as sharp. So if I have to just give the numbers on the overall commercial side, which also includes, of course, large corporates, it is at 16.1%. And if I speak specifically about the MSMEs and compare it to this year versus last year, it went up from 11.4% to 12.8% to 12.8%. So there is a slight increase. And the same is true for private sector banks and public sector banks. The sharpest increase that we saw is the NBFC sector, where it went up from 5.8% to 9.7%. So that's what we've seen. So different kind of results based on the category of institution that it is. But I think one thing which is also important to note here is it's also the denominator effect, right? NBFCs have been slow from a disbursement perspective and disbursals. So unless and until you solve for that, denominator issue, your NPA number will tend to get higher. But what is encouraging is that we are seeing July onwards, August onwards, the disbursements or the enquiries that we see from the NBFC sector have also gone up. They were probably the slowest in terms of the disbursements and inquiries, but they have also started picking up. So that's a good and positive sign.
Entire government guarantee effect fades away at the SME level. Do you think we could be in for the real stress test? Because whatever we have got at the SME level, the fact that there is a government guarantee scheme, the numbers may not look clear, they may also look opaque. When do you think real clarity will emerge on that?
Yes, I mean, at this point of time, there is the effect of moratorium. Moratorium has got lifted now. The government guarantee schemes. So to that extent, what you're saying is correct. We will have to wait and see. Now that a lot of things have opened up, things have started opening up. We will really have to wait and see how this pans out, from whether it is from a delinquency perspective or whether it is from the economically viable perspective. I think another a few months, and we will get to see the picture.
Also wanted to understand right now, Harshala, there have been concerns on the asset quality front, which are much talked about. How much of a spike can we expect when it comes to NPAs in the near term? And which category would you say has been affected the most?
So, I mean, if I speak about the NPAs and, of course, our latest MSME Pulse report, what it indicates based on the data that has come to us is, at this point of time, there is a slight increase. It's not very high. That's not what we are seeing. But as we discussed earlier, we will have to wait to see post moratorium what will the numbers look like, post the guarantee schemes, what will the numbers really look like. But across, I would say the categories of MSMEs, whether it is small or whether it is the medium, we are seeing really a marginal increase from a delinquency perspective. We're not seeing any kind of a sharp increase, at least up till now.
Could you specify which pockets are looking more stressed?
So in terms of the categories of institutions, as I mentioned earlier. Private sector banks, the last year, if you compare the 2019 numbers, the NPAs were at 4.6%. It's gone up to 5.8%. From a public sector banks, it has gone up from 17.5% to 18.6%. NBFCs, as I said, has seen a sharpest increase from 5.8% to 9.7%. So that's the kind of increase that we are seeing across the different banking categories in terms of the NPAs.
I don't have any questions. We touched upon MSMEs earlier, but just to come back to that for a moment in terms of access to credit and the funding cost environment, if you could just leave us with a note on that, Harshala.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, the banks have done a phenomenal job in terms of lending. The ECLGS scheme has really helped in terms of, making finance available to the MSMEs which were in need of that. I think that has to continue. We are seeing a good increase now across the sectors, whether it is public sector banks, private sector banks, NBFCs. So I think, if that continues to happen, we will see that, access to finance to the MSMEs will continue. And that is what is required. I think, the book has to grow, the denominator has to grow. And only then we will see that, the real revival of the economy will happen.
Okay, Harshala, great having you on the show, and thanks for giving us insight into the kind of credit trends that one is seeing, especially for the MSME segment.